Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on the spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network special series of The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time, please click subscribe, like, share, comment, and follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. We welcome back all of you to part 9 of this special series, Septemics, a philosophical science, an introduction in scales, a philosophical science, hierarchies of human phenomenon, analysis, prediction, and human management of human affairs, with Jim Marshall, founder and creator of Septemics and author of the book Septemics. But before we jump in, Jim, would you like to do a recap and a quick introduction?
Sure. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I am the discoverer of hitherto unknown natural phenomena, which greatly aid in the understanding of people, from which I created a revolutionary practical philosophic system called Septemics, and published it in the book Septemics, Hierarchies of Human Phenomena. And today we're going to discuss some of the contents of that book.
And the contents we will be going over to today on this part 9. If you haven't gotten the book, this will be or if you got the book, this will be perfect. We'll be picking up on chapter 22, the scale of attack. So let's bring up the scale of attack here. We'll jump right on in here.
Okay. Well, this scale might not make sense to the average person. First of all, they might say, well, what does that mean, scale of attack? And also they might say, well, attack is not a good thing.
Yeah.
But as I will explain, attack is absolutely vital to everyone. A person who cannot attack is insecure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you see in when a person is neurotic or psychotic. There's some element there of inability to attack. So this is a linear quantum specific scale. Linear meaning there's no apparent congruence between levels 1 and 7. Quantum meaning there's no gradations between the levels. You are either at a certain level or you're at another level. There's nothing in between. And it's a specific scale, meaning it's context driven. It has no general application. You have to put it into a context. So how does the person attack regarding his family, regarding his political party, regarding his church, regarding his job, et cetera, et cetera? Now, this scale breaks down several different ways. The top 2 levels are places where one's attack is sane. And this is indicative of courage in a person. The middle 3 are where a person's attack is neurotic. And this is a person who's cowardly. And the bottom 2 is a person who's psychotic. And their behavior is suicidal. So they're not only, a person at this level is not only afraid, he's actually destroying himself, which is sort of like becoming the source of destruction that if he were a little better off, he'd be afraid of. So let's start at the bottom. Must not be attacked. This is what hysteria is. A person who's hysterical must not be attacked. The Martians are coming. The sky is falling. That type of hysteria, that person, we must not be attacked.
Yeah.
Now, of course, a person who is confident and powerful is not really worried about being attacked. It's only a person who can't really do much of anything who's say, we must not be attacked. Up from that is must be attacked. Now, it's not obvious, but this is actually not quite as crazy as must not be attacked. This is masochism. So this person is still destroying himself. He's still suicidal, but he's sort of allowing the attack to occur, but it has to be on him.
Yeah.
Now, up from that, we go into the neurotic band. Level 5, you have cannot attack. Well, this is common. There are a lot of people who cannot attack. These are fearful people. A person who's afraid cannot attack. Why can't he attack? Because he's afraid. So this is the lowest level of the coward. Up from that is must attack. This is belligerence. This is the bully.
Mm-hmm.
This person must attack. So this is what you find in terrorists and Nazis and people like that. They're belligerent. They must attack. So it's not as crazy as cannot attack. And again, that's not obvious at all, but that's how the scale works out.
Yeah.
Now, up from must attack is unwilling to attack. Now, unwilling to attack is a pacifist. A pacifist is unwilling to attack. Now, this is neurotic because sometimes it's necessary to attack. I mean, I once had a rattlesnake under the steps of my porch. I couldn't allow that to occur. They kill people. So I went out there with a shovel and killed it. So I was not unwilling to attack because I know how dangerous those snakes are. And I mean, I saw snakes around my house that were like 4 or 5 feet long. They definitely kill you if they bit you because they had a lot of venom in them. So unwilling to attack is the pacifist, and that's the highest level of cowardice. Up from that is willing to attack. Now, this is what we see as a brave person. Like a person who joins the military, he goes into battle, he's willing to attack. That doesn't mean he wants to attack. It doesn't mean he will attack, but he's willing to attack. If they come after us, we'll attack them. Okay, so that's a brave person. He has courage.
Yeah.
And above that is no need to attack. No need to attack is objectivity. When a person is objective, he has no need to attack. So, in other words, he can look at the Republicans, he can look at the Democrats, he can look at the Libertarians, he can look at the Green Party. He has no need to attack any of them. He has objectivity on them. He says, well, these guys represent this, they represent that. These guys believe this, these guys believe that. And, he has no need to attack them. He's objective about it, which is the highest level. So that's a state where you're not going to get embroiled in attack because you have no need to attack. So that's the best place to be. Any questions?
No. Let's go to scale of conflict.
Okay, so obviously we all have conflict. This is a spiral scale, meaning it's easy to confuse level 1 with level 7. Level 7 says no conflict, and level 1 also says no conflict. But at level 7, it's no conflict possible. And at level 1, it's no need for conflict. So a person at level 1 is a peaceful person. He has no need for a conflict, and so he doesn't embroil himself in a conflict. Even if you try to get him into a conflict, he doesn't have a need for it, so he just doesn't take the bait.
Yeah.
Whereas a person at the bottom, this is a person who's in denial. For him, no conflict is possible because he's in denial about it. You see, if a person is in denial about something, that's sort of a way to get out from having the conflict. You see, so like if a guy realizes he's an alcoholic, there's a lot of conflict there. You know, I know I shouldn't be drinking. I can't help myself. I should do something about this. Maybe it's, there's a conflict. But if a guy just is in denial about it, there's no conflict. He drinks, he gets drunk, and he falls down. No conflict. See?
Yeah.
Now, let's look at the fact that this is a gradual scale, meaning there is an infinitude of gradations in between. So you move gradually from level to level. And as is the case with most scales, it's a specific scale, meaning it only makes sense in a context. How is the guy on conflict regarding his family? How is he on conflict regarding his workplace? They could be very different. He could be at a completely different level. Now let's look at the dotted vertical line on the right. This is the axis. What are we measuring with this scale? What we're measuring is responsibility or lack thereof. Now, if a person assumes complete responsibility for something, he is at cause over that thing. So when a person has no need for conflict, he is in a state of peace. That's causative. Okay, he's not at effect of anything in this regard because he assumes complete responsibility. Because you see, when you assume complete responsibility, that's when you have peace. At the bottom, level 7 is no responsibility. That's what denial is. Person assumes no responsibility. So he is at effect. So this is a gradation of going from effect at the bottom to cause at the top. And the reason why the person is at cause at the top is because he assumes complete responsibility. And the reason the person is at effect at the bottom is because he accepts no responsibility. So this tells you, in order to have a higher level relative to conflict, you must assume more responsibility. So each level has more responsibility than the lower level. So you see, when you get near the top, you start becoming more and more causative. And as you get near the bottom, you become more and more the effect in that area. So let's start at 7. No conflict possible. This person is in denial. He assumes no responsibility and is completely at effect. So this is like a guy who's a drug addict. He's not struggling to get off drugs. If he were struggling to get off drugs, there would be some conflict there. Oh, this is tough. I don't know if I can do this. There's a conflict in his mind. But a person he's just being a drug addict. If you say to him, are you a drug? Oh, no, I'm not a drug addict. I can stop whenever I want. I just don't want to stop. See, he's not assuming any responsibility at all, not even enough to have any conflict possible. He is an effect point. Now, up from that is defeated. A defeated person has been dominated by someone or something. Now, this is not as bad as being in denial because he's at least facing up to the defeat. The person at level 7, he says, what defeat? There's no defeat. The guy who's been defeated, like there'll be a guy who'll say, yeah, I've tried to get off drugs and I just couldn't do it. I've been defeated. So he has been dominated. So you see, there's not a lot of conflict there because he's defeated. This is like the guy who says, okay, we surrender. So he's very much at effect. but he's not at effect as much at effect as the guy at level 7.
Yeah.
Now, up from there, better than defeated is losing. The person who's losing is struggling with whatever it is. He's not saying he's defeated yet, but he's losing. You see? Like, this is a guy, he's trying to lose weight, he's trying to lose weight, he's trying to lose weight. He can't do it. He's struggling with it. See? Now, this guy is at least accepting enough responsibility to try to do something about it. He's not saying, I'm defeated, I can't do it. See, he hasn't given up yet. So he feels conflict. Up from that is a stalemate. So at a stalemate, the conflict it's a level of equilibrium where neither side can go anywhere. You saw this in World War I, where you had trench warfare, and it was a stalemate for a long time. This is also sometimes referred to as a Mexican standoff. Okay? So there's a kind of equilibrium there. So there's conflict, but the two opposing sides are sort of locked up against one another, where neither side is defeating the other.
Yeah.
So this person is somewhat at cause. He's at cause enough to be in a stalemate. He's not losing. Up from that is winning. Winning is success in any area. When you are a success, it means you're winning. Why are you winning? Because you are accepting a lot of responsibility for that. So let's say you take a guy, he's a salesman, and he's selling a lot. He's making money. Okay, he's winning. That's success. Okay, he's assuming a lot of responsibility. He's at work on time. He's not getting drunk the night before. He has treats his clients with respect. He's assuming a lot of responsibility, and he's fairly causative in this area, which is why he's winning. Up from that is victorious. This guy has already won. He's in a position of dominance. Okay? So that was the position the United States was in 1945. It was the dominant superpower in the world. And it became the beginning of the U.S. superpower status. Okay? They were victorious. They were dominant. And notice how much responsibility the U.S. took. Okay? They asserted an enormous amount of responsibility. They created thousands and thousands of ships and planes and bombs and bullets, okay? And sent forces all over the world to fight the enemy. And they gave support to the British, support to the Russians, our allies, okay? So they assumed an enormous, and then after the war, we had the Marshall Plan, where they helped the defeated nations recover. That's assuming a lot of responsibility. They didn't just say, well, the hell with you, you lost, don't bother us now. That's a very causative state. They made allies out of the Germans and the Japanese. And the Italians. They've been our allies ever since because we helped them. And then at the top, beyond victorious, is no need for conflict. So this is like when you see some guru who's been meditating for 30 or 40 years, he's in a state of peace. He has no need for conflict. He's not going to fight with you. So he's not going to become embroiled in any type of conflict, whether it's a war, an argument. He has no need for that. You can make fun of him. You can do bad things to him. He's a peaceful person. He's very responsible. But think about it. Somebody does something bad to you and you don't strike out at them, you're assuming responsibility for them. So you see this very often in a family, a harmonious family, where they're all assuming responsibility for one another. The parents are assuming responsibility for the children are assuming responsibility for the parents. It's a harmonious family. It's peaceful. It's very causative. Each person is causative over all the other persons. So if
Yeah.
the brother sees the sister skin her knee, he brings her in, he puts peroxide, he bandages her up. You see, he says, don't cry. He's at cause over her because he's assuming responsibility. That's peaceful. So that's what you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any questions?
No. Oh, that
Okay.
definitely makes sense. Let's see, 26.
By the way, I want to go back. I want to point out
Go back.
one thing.
There we
This
go.
is an interesting skill. Notice how stalemate is equilibrium. It's like a fulcrum.
Yeah.
And then at 3, we have winning. At 5, we have losing. And at 6, we have defeated. And at 2, we have victorious. So this is almost like a mirror image scale,
Yeah.
which is why it's a spiral scale, because 1 and 7 can easily be mistaken. Not a mistake you want to make.
Go. Go.
Okay?
Huh. Yeah.
Next.
Next. Scale of reaction.
Okay, this is really important. Most of the trouble, if not all of the trouble that people get into, is because they react. In China, they had a practice called Wu Wei,
Mm.
which the ruling caste was supposed to embrace. Wu Wei means literally no action or non-action. Now, the way I try to explain it to people when I'm teaching them this is no reaction. So if a person is low on this scale, he's reacting a lot. And the further down you go, the more he's reacting. Now, everybody enters this scale at level 1. So the first thing that happens is something irritates you. See, and then as you go down, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And you get to a state where you are acting out. You're not even under control of yourself anymore.
Yeah.
Now, this is a linear scale, so there's no confusion between level 1 and 7. It's a quantum scale, meaning there's no gradation. You're either at level 1 or you're at level 2. There's nothing in between. And it's specific, meaning this is according to a context. So the way you react to your spouse, the way you react to your mother, the way you react to your son, the way you react to your boss, etc., etc., etc. So a person can be very irritated at his wife, but not at all irritated at his son. See? It's a different context. Now, let's look at the axis. What are we measuring with this scale? We're measuring least affected and most affected. So when you're at level 1, you are affected, but very little. When you're at level 7, you're affected an enormous amount. You're affected about as much as you can be affected. So that's what this is about. That's what this is measuring. So as you descend the scale, you are affected more and more by the stimulus, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So let's say you have a guy who has a very good relationship with his wife. He's not on this scale. It doesn't apply. He's not reacting to her. So if she does something a little irritating to him, he doesn't react to it. See, a guy who's, let's say he comes home 10 minutes late. She says, "Where are you? 10 minutes late." He says, "Well, there was a lot of traffic. Apparently there was a big accident on the freeway. I'm sorry I'm late." See, there's no reaction there. He's just explaining what happened.
Yeah.
And now some guys would say, "Look, don't bug me. I was stuck in traffic and I'm already irritated. Okay? So leave me alone." You see?
Yeah.
He's bothered by it. Not a good thing. He's starting to descend the scale regarding his wife. So this is really useful because you can head it off at the pass. In other words, you can catch yourself. Oh, I'm feeling a little irritated. Okay, I'm not going to feel irritated. I'm just going to let her say what she says. You see? Because then you're not going to go further down where you wind up having a fight and getting a divorce. So, since everybody enters at level 1, I'm going to start at level 1. So first, the person gets irritated by whatever the stimulus is. It bothers him. That doesn't mean he says anything about it, but it bothers him. It may not appear that he's bothered, but he's bothered. Then the next level down is he protests it. I don't like this. Protest always has criticism in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have a union out there and they're protesting. We want more money. We want higher wages. See, they're going to be critical of the boss. These fat cats are keeping all the money for themselves and not giving us enough. See, that guy is pretty affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it gets worse, then the person will start to worry about it. Anxiety sets in. He's not merely protesting. He's worried. He's worried about this thing, whatever it is. So a guy, he protests his wife, look, I had a hard day. I don't want to hear about it. Don't be a pain in the ass. See, that's critical.
Yeah.
Now, if he continues to go down, now I'll start to worry about it. Oh, I wonder if we're going to have a fight. I wonder if we're going to break up. I wonder if she still loves me. He's anxious. So worry comes after protest. Now, if this continues to get worse, now he'll rationalize it. She's a lousy wife anyway. She burns the toast. She makes the oatmeal too watery, and she puts starch in my collars. You see, so now he's justifying this thing. He's justifying his worry and his protest and his irritation. That's even worse, because now he's sort of holding on to this thing and making himself right about it.
Yeah.
This is a bad sign. If you're dealing with somebody and they are rationalizing, they're at level 4. You're ready for big trouble. That's the next thing. There's going to be an explosion if you don't defuse this. So you have to say to the person, all right, I understand that you're not happy, that you don't feel I make enough money, but tell me about this. You see, he lets her tell. Okay. All right. So, how long have you been feeling this way? See? And then he can work her back up to being worried. She's not rationalizing anymore, but she's still worried about how they're going to make ends meet because of how much money he makes. See? That's an improvement. It's not as bad as rationalizing it. Now, if the rationalization holds, the next thing that happens is there's an upset. Okay? Upset has an element of shock in it. When a person gets upset, there's always some shock. I'll give you an example. Let's say you come home from work and your house is on fire. You're shocked, right? You're upset.
Yeah.
Okay. So shock and upset there's always an element of shock when a person is upset. A person does not get upset gradually. That is a misconception. A person gets upset instantaneously. You can see this. The guy is talking to his wife. All of a sudden, she picks up the frying pan and throws him at him and curses him out. See, right there, there's a quantum leap there. She went from rationalizing to being upset. Okay, now the next level down is shock. A person who goes into shock. This is a person. Now, I realize that the word shock appears on both levels, and that's an unfortunate usage of English that I was unable to avoid. Mm-hmm. But worse than upset is shock. This is the person who stops talking. So let's say the guy's wife is killed in an automobile accident. He gets to the hospital, he can't talk. They say to him, "Who are you?" He can't talk, you see? He's
Yeah.
stunned. That's even worse than upset. That's a person who's he's shocked to the point that he's stunned by it. He can't function. So this is what you see in a lot of people in an insane asylum. Whatever went on in their lives was so bad, they're stunned by it. See, they just sit there.
Mhm.
You try to talk to the guy. What's going on? What's bothering you? He can't talk. If he does talk, he says nothing coherent
Yeah.
or cogent. And below that is acting out, dramatizing. This is what you see in really crazy people. So when you see like these terrorists who went into Israel a couple of months ago and murdered something like 1,400 people,
Yeah.
including women and children, okay? Those people were acting out. They are dramatizing something. They are not in control of themselves. This is the type of person you have to put them in jail, or you have to put them in a straitjacket, or if you can't do that, you have to shoot them. Okay? So, or like if you see, we had riots in the United States some years ago. Okay? Those people are acting out. Just look at them. They're
Oh, yeah.
crazy.
Burning places down.
Right.
Jeez. Yeah.
Right. It's like they're acting out. This is beyond being stunned. This goes into they're just not under control, like a lynch mob. Let's string them up. Get a rope. Those people are acting out. They're dramatizing something from their past. They're not in present space and time.
Yeah.
And those are the people who are most affected. So people who decide, well, we're gonna riot. Like if you remember the Rodney King riots. I lived in LA
Yeah.
when that occurred, where they set the city on fire. LA was never the same after that. I know because I lived there. People were just acting out. So you have to realize what acting out is. It's a person who's doing something that is not volitional anymore.
Mhm.
There's no thought in it. You can't talk to this person. If you try to say like, for example, there was this guy, Reginald Denny, who was a truck driver, and they pulled him out of his car and bashed his brains in.
Phew.
He didn't have anything to do with that. He's just
Yeah.
driving his truck and going in the wrong neighborhood. Okay? He didn't know these people. They were acting out.
Yeah.
So that's what you get from really crazy people. So when you see, like, for example, in the spring of 1945, Berlin was being closed in on from both directions. The Russians were coming in from the east. The Americans were coming in from the west. Okay, it would have been there was way past the point where the Nazis should have surrendered. Okay, and there's a famous story where Hitler kept them fighting and fighting and fighting, and one of his generals said to him, they're all going to die, and he said, well, that's what young men are for. Right? So that's like a seriously crazy person.
Yeah.
Okay? He was dramatizing something. He was acting out. You could not reason with him. And this went on for a long time, which is why there were multiple attempts to kill him by his own people.
Yeah.
None of which was successful. So they could see that he was acting out. They told him. Hermann Goering, who was bad, but not as bad as Hitler, said to him, if the Americans get into war, we will lose. That's exactly what happened. Hitler went ahead and declared war on the United States. That was crazy. because they knew that America's industrial might was not only greater than Germany's, it was greater than all of Europe's put together.
Yeah.
We could crank out thousands and thousands of airplanes and tanks. And there was, when you're talking about that level of industrialization, America could not be defeated by the Nazis. So he was just acting out. You see, you could not reason with the man. So this is why when you try to talk to somebody who's in a mob or some kind of a terrorist like Jack the Ripper, you couldn't talk to Jack the Ripper and say, "No, Jack, that wasn't his name, but that's what they called him," because I didn't know his name. Really, we really to this day don't really know who he was. But although there's speculation, but
Yeah.
you couldn't say, "Jack, now look, that's enough. You don't need to do this." See, wouldn't do any good because he was not under his own volition. He was acting out something. He was just acting out. It's just like a guy who thinks he's Abraham Lincoln, thinks he's Teddy Roosevelt, thinks he's Napoleon, right? You go into insane asylums, you find these people. Okay, they're just acting out something.
And that could be the same for any of these serial killers in historical
Yes,
thing that
absolutely.
they're just acting out something,
Absolutely.
dramatizing.
Right. Well, every once in a while you hear about some guy takes a high-powered rifle and a rucksack full of ammunition, goes up in a tower and starts shooting people.
Mm.
There's nothing rational in that. He's just acting out something. He's like an automaton. He's so affected, he's even beyond being stunned.
Yeah.
So those are the most dangerous people. They're so heavily affected by what's going on that they completely lose control of themselves. There's no reasoning with them at all.
Yeah. The scale
Yeah.
looks to be something very precious when it comes to like a psychologist or a psychiatrist looking at and kind of consulting their client or their patient.
Right. And I'll tell you, I use this scale many, many times, probably hundreds of times, to pick up a person at the level he's at and move him to the next highest level. And then pick him up at that level, move him to the next highest level. So a guy comes in and he just got out of jail because he beat up his wife. That's level 7. He's acting out.
Yeah.
So if I work with this guy, he'll go into a state where he's stunned. In other words, he's not breathing fire anymore. He's just sort of blah, He might just sit there, have nothing to say. And if you improve him from that state, then he will get upset. She did this and this and this and this and this, you see? And then if you keep working with him, he'll start give you the rationalizations.
Yeah.
Why he was upset. You see? So you can work the guy back up the scale. But this is really important when you're dealing with somebody. Assess the person. If this person is rationalizing to you, he's at level 4, you don't want to mess with him. Now, if it's somebody you have to mess with, like your wife or your son or something, okay, then realize they're rationalizing. And if you can talk them into the point where they start becoming worried about it, that's an improvement.
Yeah.
So this is really important because when you're dealing with a person, you want to know what level he's at because you want to know how affected he is. And then also you want to know the level above because that's what you can move him towards. So needless to say, the further down the scale goes, the worse the condition the person is in, the harder it is to handle the person. So for example, if a person is protesting, it's not that hard to get him back up to level 1 irritated. In other words, he's not protesting anymore, but he's still irritated about it.
Yeah.
Then you try to get him to a point where he's not irritated about it, and then he's not on the scale anymore. He's off the scale. He's not reacting. So my whole life is about Wu Wei. No reaction.
No reaction.
So if somebody comes up to me and says, you're evil, if most guys in a bar would say, oh yeah, and punch him in the nose, I would say, why do you say that? Or what makes you think that? Or, all right, tell me about that. See? In other words, I'm not going to react. I'm not going to react, period.
Yeah.
I was talking to a lawyer once about a lawsuit that I was in, where there had been a tort against me. I was the plaintiff. And we were talking, and he mentioned about my being mad at the defendant. I stopped and said, wait a minute, I'm not mad at the defendant. And he laughed. And he said, you don't get mad, you get even.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. You bring the lawsuit, you file the proper papers, you present the evidence. But getting mad doesn't help anything. That's all the way down at level 5.
Yeah.
Right? That's not, you don't make a good witness. What the judge wants to see, he doesn't want to see that you're reacting at all. He just wants you to go on the stand, tell the facts, okay? And the other side will try to get you to react, and you don't react.
Mm-hmm. Just sit there, be calm.
That's right. So that's how you should handle everything. No reaction. Yeah. Because that's how you get in trouble.
And a lot of people seem to get in trouble because we don't ask questions. We react right away. We knee-jerk reaction, but we don't ask questions.
That's right. Right.
We're the right ones.
Yeah. Now, asking questions is one way, but another way is just to say, tell me about that.
Yeah.
Like somebody's protesting. You don't pay us enough money, and we don't like the working conditions. See, they're protesting. Okay, Tell me all about it.
Yeah.
Any more you want to tell me about that? See, you don't even necessarily have to ask a question. You could just say, "Tell me."
Yeah. Say, yeah. Why? Why is this that? Or why do you question?
Why is
what's
the question?
your view?
You don't even have to ask why.
Yeah.
You can just say, "Tell me." So I get this all the time with my clients. The guy is terribly upset about something. I say, tell me about it. And boy, does he tell me about it. So then I can see where he is on the scale, and I know what I'm going toward to move him up. So this is really important and useful. You can train yourself to not react. You don't have to react. The whole idea of cognitive therapy is that you always have a choice about how you think and feel.
Mm-hmm.
So, you find these dopey guys in a bar. Somebody says, "Oh, you're a Trump supporter. You're an idiot." They have a fist fight.
Yeah.
So, if somebody criticized, I don't discuss politics. Period. But if I did and they criticized me, I'd say, okay. See? No reaction. That keeps you off this scale.
Yeah.
Don't get irritated. Just realize the guy's a dope. He's probably a low IQ person. He's probably got all kinds of problems. Don't take the bait. Just don't react. Now, this is something that you can develop. I actually had people criticize me because they said, Jim won't argue with me. You're right. I'm not going to argue with you. What about this? What about that? I just say, okay, what else do you want to tell me? See? Wu Wei. Non-action. So that's how you stay out of this. And so when you catch yourself doing these things, realize you're reacting. It's never a good thing to react. Never. No matter what.
Yeah.
So that's why, let's say some guy insults your wife. You get mad. You beat the hell out of him. You go to jail. Right? So that's not the smart way to handle it. Smart way to handle it is be nice to her, maybe report him to the police, maybe be a witness, don't react.
Yeah. Don't feel like you got to be the tough guy all the time. Do it smart.
Right. So I've had a lot of success in court. When people commit an unlawful act against me, I bring a legal action against them. And, because if somebody commits a crime against you, you can still bring a civil suit against them.
Yeah.
So let's say a guy beats you up, he goes to jail for beating you up, right? Well, you can still sue him, and for the damage he did to you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go into court, you don't want to be reacting. You just want to say, this is what happened. And answer the questions, present the evidence. Here are my medical bills. Here's my doctor's declaration, and so forth. That's the way you want to handle everything. I'm belaboring this point because this is how people get in trouble.
Yep.
And smart people don't do this. Now, sometimes a common reaction is a guy will react, and people say, yeah, that's telling him. No. Okay? That's not the way to handle it. The way to handle it is to stay yourself, your non-irritated self. You know who you are. Be that person. Because by the time you get to level 7, you're not yourself anymore. You're somebody else. You see? You're not Jim or Paul. You're some lunatic who's throwing a garbage can through a glass window.
Yeah.
You see? That's level 7. So don't allow yourself to descend the scale. Catch yourself and say, oh, okay. So I almost never rationalize anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's at level 4. Most people do this all the time. Because I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to allow myself to react.
Yeah.
It's unproductive.
Yeah, as soon as we see ourselves being conscientious, and as soon as we see ourselves being irritated or bothered by something, analyze it. Ask ourselves, why? Why am I bothered by this?
Right. And even if you can't figure out why you're bothered, don't react.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the key. That's how you stay out of trouble. Okay? So part of the reason why I do so well in court is, if the judge doesn't sustain one of my objections, okay, that's fine. I go on. I don't react. I was up against a lawyer once, and he was losing badly because his client had already been criminally convicted. Okay? So when you sue somebody who's already been criminally convicted for what they did to you, they don't really have a leg to stand on,
Yeah.
So this lawyer was just losing everything, and he finally was found in contempt. The judge blew a stack. See, I saw that coming. So, when that happens, just shut up and let the judge do his job. He's taking care of this for you.
Yeah.
Same thing with the police. I treat police 100% of the time with respect. Okay? Yeah. Sometimes they're dopey. Sometimes they don't know what they're doing. That's okay. You don't have to react. Thank you, officer. Have a nice day. See? No reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be in the music business, and so I was out late at night a lot. So I was always stopped by the cops. 2 o'clock in the morning, they pull me over. What are you doing out this late?
Right? Leaving work, going home.
Yeah. I say I'm a pro musician. I'm on my way home from work. Okay, get out of the car.
Yeah.
It's dopey.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to give in to them. I just went along with whatever they did. They wasted my time. Thank you, good night, and I go home. Nothing happened. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't doing anything. So, but the way to handle it is not to react. Okay? So your wife comes to you, it's okay. Don't react. Tell me about it.
I'll tell you what, as of lately, I mean, I see it on the news all the time. There's these people just getting themselves in trouble because they're
That's right.
overreacting, getting stopped by a cop. I'm like, dude, just keep your mouth shut. If you're asked questions, answer them the best of your ability.
That's right. Don't react.
Yeah.
See, now there's a difference between response and react. If the policeman says to me, why are you out this late? I say, because I'm driving home from work.
Yeah.
See, that's a response. It's not a reaction. So you can respond. People want you to respond, but you don't react. Your wife yells at you. Instead of reacting, say, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. How long have you been feeling that way? Tell me all about it. See, that's a response. There's no reaction. So that's it for this skill.
Yeah. Cool. That's a good one. I like that one. Very important, like you said. And I definitely see the importance of this.
This is how you go from being your logical, rational self to being a maniac. This is the
Yep. So what we'll do is we'll pick up on the for our next instruction and scales. This is the last scale until we move into group scales.
Right.
Could you give us before we end this session, give us a quick either a quick recap of what we did through the book 1 moving into book 2, or kind of giving us a little idea of this transition? What is the difference between book 1 and book 2? What we will pick up on next week?
Well, the individual skills apply to individuals, and the group skills apply to groups.
Okay.
If you would like, I can tell you what the group skills are. There's only 11 of them, and that might pique the interest of your viewers.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay, so these are the group scales. These are astonishingly powerful scales. The scale of relationships, the scale of life spheres, the scale of government, the scale of civilization, the scale of survival, the scale of management, the scale of exchange, the scale of communication, the scale of allegiance, the scale of sexuality, and the scale of politics. So you see, these are big subjects that impact everybody in a major way. So it's a group phenomena.
Yeah. Huh.
So that's next.
Cool. Jim, thank you again.
You're welcome.
And until next week. Definitely.
See you next week.
All right, brother. You have a good one. Happy holidays, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for watching our special instruction. Until next week, we will see you next time.